Hello, and welcome to Design to Manifest, the podcast. I'm your host, Katherine Wentworth. Design to Manifest features conversations with creatives, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, healers, and visionaries who have turned their ideas into reality. Design to Manifest explores how people build extraordinary lives, navigate challenges, follow their calling, and create meaningful impact in the world. This podcast offers inspiration and insight from people who have intentionally and sometimes unexpectedly designed the lives they live. Welcome to Design to Manifest. Hello, and welcome to Design to Manifest, a podcast about the intentional and sometimes unexpected ways people design the life and work they were meant to create. Each week, I talk with creatives, entrepreneurs, healers, and visionaries about how their ideas turned into reality. This week, I am interviewing my dear friend, fashion designer, Adolfo Sanchez. Thank you so much, Adolfo, for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat.
I am so excited to be here with you. And I actually am wearing one of your designs from 2014.
Oh my God,
really
that's right. I recognize it.
just chic little black turtleneck-ish with little shoulder things here. It's really cute. I
Yeah,
love your designs. And
thank
yeah,
you.
Adolfo is just, you're so talented.
Oh, I love you.
Oh, thank you. So I wanted to open this up with, what does Design to Manifest mean to you?
Designed to manifest. I mean, it's a big part of what we do is manifesting, right? We are always bringing to life, hopefully, what we want our life to be. And that's a big part of the whole idea. And I love that you're doing this. I love that this podcast is based on this and this whole idea of, designing and manifesting and creating your own life and your future.
And I think that with you, since I've known you for so long, just the journey of sometimes not knowing, or maybe you knew, but I know that you've been through a lot of challenges, and as I have, any entrepreneur or creative. So I would love to explore and talk about your journey as a fashion designer, especially in Los Angeles, where it is a bit competitive. And just to know, like, I guess, when's the first moment that you realized that you wanted to be a fashion designer? Was it something that evolved, or it's something that you always knew you wanted to do?
Well, I played with it as a teenager. When I was a kid, I played with design and raving and partying. I was creating costumes. And so I think that's when I realized when I was a kid that I wanted to do something creative, or I enjoyed creativity and I enjoyed bringing things to life and making things with my hands. I've always been like that kind of kid that always would like take apart furniture and go and get like beat up furniture and play with it and restore it and that whole thing. And so that's always been a really big part of my life. But I knew I wanted to get into fashion. I just didn't know how to go about going into fashion. So I started working in high end retail when I was 16. And then I knew I liked being around fashion. I knew that I was sewing on the side and trying to like self teach myself on how to become someone that was better at the craft of sewing. But I still really didn't know or understand how to get into the business of it, right? And so I just went for it. Like in 2010, I left corporate fashion and just pursued my own brand. But I think I've always known since I was really young that I was a creative kid.
And so whenever you decided to take that leap into becoming a designer, I guess, like, can you share the first time you had a client, or maybe you had an idea for a style? Like, what was that moment when you were like, oh yeah, I can do this, or someone's going to pay me to do this?
Someone did pay me to do it, and I don't think I was quite ready yet to do it. I was living in Las Vegas, and I was working at Gucci at the time, and I was sewing on the side. And somebody asked me to do some costumes for some dancers that were going to be at Janet Jackson's CD release party. This was when she showed up with the snake on the runway on the red carpet, and it was like all over the place. This was a long time ago, and I didn't know what I was doing, to be honest. And so I made these kind of Japanese, sexy little inspired costumes. And I took an invisible zipper and I stitched it on the outside, which is supposed to be invisible, so you're not supposed to see it. And I think when the pieces were done, they were kind of like, like, I don't think this guy knows what he's doing. And that was the first time I got paid to do something. And then after that, I got booked to do corsets for Sushi Samba that opened in the Wynn, I think, or Encore. It opened, and this is when I was living in Vegas. And So those were like the first gigs that I got. I still didn't really quite know what I was doing. So I ended up hiring a seamstress to work out of my garage in my house in Vegas. And she would go there on the days that I was off or like, when I wasn't working at Gucci. And she specialized in leather and she was Brazilian and she showed me how to start making corsets and working with leather. And that's how I first started getting into it. That was probably one of my like very first gigs, but they were hot messes and I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. But that's how you learn. And I learned a lot from her and I learned a lot of how to construct and mostly corsets. It's like she taught me how to make a corset and I feel like I made corsets for like 4 years, you know? But then eventually I started learning how to do other garments. And yeah, that was probably one of the first gigs.
What year was that? Or like how long of a journey until you were like, you know what, this is a business. This is something that I know what I'm doing. I mean, we're always learning,
Yeah.
but when do you feel that shift was? Like, how long did it take? Because a lot of people who are listening are probably like, I want to be a fashion designer, maybe a teenager, maybe somebody in college, whatever it is. So for me personally in music, they have this saying that it takes 10 years.
Mm.
Of course, if you have a hit song or something like that, but especially, I come from the DJ world, they always say it takes about a decade to really make it, unless, of course, you have a viral video or song. So for you as a designer, like, how long did it take for you to, I guess, in a lack of a better word, arrive or to make it into a business?
Yeah. I mean, I think the business model used to be it'll take 10 years for you to get your business from like entrepreneur to really going. I believe that was true pre COVID. I really feel like now it's more like 15 years, and I also do think that if you're really fully dedicated on just one craft, and that's my one recommendation that I would make to anybody, like if you're going to focus on doing one thing, do one thing. Learn how to do that one thing right. I think one of the problems that I had is that I was wanting to do like wedding dresses and then I was wanting to do evening gowns. And I'm like, well, I could do men's clothes, or I could also do like stage costuming. And then I can also do, and I spread myself out into so many different categories that, not to say that I wasn't learning, but I think that if I would have just focused on one style and had been focused only strictly on that, which eventually it happened, I started getting more into evening wear. And then I just really started getting into evening wear. And then that really ended up getting, I think, kind of momentum. Yeah, I mean, I think it just takes time. And I do think it takes more than 10 years now. And I think had I focused only on designing and not having all these other businesses, because I had a PR firm and then I had a product development firm and then I worked in publicity stunts helping celebrities get PR with paparazzi. And so I did so many other elements. But with that said, I do believe that everything happens when it's supposed to and everything happens in a way that it's already written without you even knowing, because I think all those experiences and all those businesses that I was involved in gave me all the kind of backbone and all the seasoning, if you will, that I needed for what I'm in now and how I've gotten into everything now with my business. But I do think it finally became a business to me where I felt like, okay, this is really what I'm going to be doing the rest of my life. Probably like 2015 is probably 5 years after I had gone and said, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and the journey really is that. That's what I realize with entrepreneurs and creatives and people who are manifesting their dreams is that it's a lot of times not a straightforward path. Like if you wouldn't have done that PR firm and, had all those celebrity client like relationships, I mean, they wouldn't have turned into celebrity fashion client relationships, more the PR stuff, right? So they all go hand in hand. I know that you've worked with some amazing people. I don't know if you want me to drop any names or not, but like
And if you,
go check out his Instagram. They're all on there. And I mean, sometimes I see the people you've worked with and I'm like, wow, how did he do that? And how did he get that? But it definitely is a culmination of all of the businesses and the relationships. I would say even being a club kid, back to the, of knowing how to go out and talk to people, right?
right. Or just not
Or
there.
not. Or what do you mean just not
Well,
care?
in the sense of like when you're a club kid, you're like, when I was this 15-year-old kid trying to figure out who I was and what I was, had piercings all over my face. I had blue hair. I'd glue on feathers on my head one night and I'd put on 15-inch platform Doc Martens and I'd go out there not caring what people thought about how I looked or what I did or, you know, what they thought of me. And I think that's the first thing. Like, if you're going to get into any business, if you're going to get into entertainment, if you're going to get into fashion, if you're going to get into, film, your skin has to be so thick. If you are fragile and frail and get hurt by what people think, go get an N5, because it's just not this. These industries are tough, and they are very selective, and they're one person's hot and then the next moment someone's not, and they're always looking for new talent. And so it's, they say it's one thing to become on demand or famous or whatever. It's another thing to stay consistent and stick around. And I love Madonna. She said the most controversial thing I ever did was stick around. And I think that it's one of the hardest things to do.
So just to finish your thought, the
Yeah.
most controversial thing Madonna said was to stick around.
And to have longevity. And I think to have longevity, it's always what I've always wanted. I've ran into people that are like, wow, you're still trying to do this, or wow, you're still at it. And I'm like, well, this is my job. This is why I want to be like 75 and waving at a runway, at the end of a runway. So it's like, I'm so surprised when people say that, because I'm like, what, do you just give up and do something else? I don't think people see it as like, this is what I do. This is my career, my life career.
Right. I remember we threw a party at Sky Bar, and the events person there was like, Adolfo's the Oscar de la Renta of Los Angeles. And I
Oh,
thought that was such, yeah, she said that. I forgot to tell you that, but yeah, she said
10
that.
years later, I find out. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, I will consider myself the Oscar de la Renta of Los Angeles when I feel like I've reached a level of that. And I think, advice that I would give to my younger self, or anyone who's listening, is I would say, like, it's okay to hire people who are professionals at what they are doing. So in the sense of, like, my goal was always like, learn to sew better, learn to sew better, learn to sew better, learn to pattern make better, learn to get better fits, and that's great, because you're always, learning and growing. But it's okay to hire a seamstress. It's okay to hire a pattern maker. It's okay to hire a factory. In fact, if you want that product to sit in a department store with other products that are, you know, doing really well, and other brands that are recognized, maybe it should be factory made so that it's at that level or better. So that's one of the things I think, growing up in LA and pursuing a creative career in LA, it teaches you, at least in fashion, that, like, you have to do everything yourself. In fact, when I was on Next in Fashion, there was designers that were on there that are
That's right. You were on Next. You were on Next in Fashion. What was that, Netflix?
Netflix. It was Netflix's first jab at, like, a Project Runway type
And
stuff.
what year was that?
It aired, Next in Fashion aired 2 weeks into lockdown, 2020.
Which
Perfect
is kind
timing.
of great because people were watching
A
it.
lot of people watched. I don't know how it helped us, but it really helped the show, I will tell you that. It really helped the show. They got a
So
higher viewership than they expected, because everyone was sitting on their couch scratching their heads.
So through your journey as a fashion designer, doing things like that, like you don't necessarily know what's going to work. We've spoken before about that experience and how PR, it's sometimes you can't quantify it. As in, I was on this show, so then I've sold X amount more dresses or whatever,
Mhm.
product. And it's interesting with PR because I was having this conversation yesterday about how can you quantify PR? And I explained it to someone like you can't really quantify it unless you are doing like Google ads and then you're selling shoes or a book or something. Then you could say, oh, I spent this much on ads, and then this is how many books or shoes I sold. So, with your understanding of PR and all the things that you've done, how would you say, like, what is the formula that you use? Like, is it a little bit of like this and that? Is it Instagram 50%? And then, I mean, what's your ethos around that?
I mean, I don't think anybody can actually tell you a full breakdown unless it's some, like, professional firm looking at statistics and trying to pull data from things, right? I think, we obviously met through a former business partner of mine when I was doing the publicity stunt agency and firm.
We met because we met in New York whenever you had a PR firm and you were doing the PR for a fashion designer who was showing their collection. I believe
Right.
it was a spring collection.
Right. So it was a company called 360 EMA, and we were doing publicity, personal publicity, and PR for either individual talent who owned brands. At that time, it was old Jake Wilson, who owned Super Trash and was launching her own brand in New York. And so we had booked you to be a DJ at her runway show. But on the other side of that firm was also like trying to have celebrities become more famous and doing licensing deals for fragrances and Priscilla Presley's furniture line. And so it was a lot of different components of PR. And one of those components was back in the day when we had paparazzi waiting on, outside of the Ivy for someone or whatever. If somebody new wanted to get more famous, then we'd be like, oh, well, maybe so and so, we can pay so and so to walk out with them and we'll call the paps and tell them to photograph this person. And they'll be like, so and so's photographed with this new girl. Who is she? And then she's like up and coming, music artist. So then she'll get like help her get discovered. I don't know exactly if there's a formula that works. I will say one of the things that I know for sure that I would not be here today with everything that I've done if it wasn't for Instagram. That I know for sure. I know social media is such a powerful tool. It's gotten me the factories that I work with. It's gotten me celebrity requests. It got me next in fashion. There's so many things that have come. Like I literally have to first and foremost say like thank you to Instagram because that's where a lot of my experiences and everything that I've been able to do has come from. But I think it's like any business. You just get the spaghetti and you throw it at the wall, right? And you see what sticks. And if something sticks, you do more of it. For me, evening wear, doing something really dramatic and over the top, the kind of pieces that nobody would ever wear, but everyone goes crazy for and goes, oh my God, that's so amazing. Those pieces are the kind of pieces that always got me attention. But you don't sell those pieces, right? So then you do pieces that will sell, and then you do more of those crazy pieces that won't because those are PR and people love it and that gets you attention. And so I think finding components that get you some sort of eyes on what you're doing in a time where social media is more popular with someone slipping and falling and doing a skit and they get 90 million views versus like someone who's showing their hard talent and their creativity and they get like 300. You do have to be more creative and do something that sticks out and stands out for sure. But I think once you figure out what that thing is that gets you to stick out and stand out, you use that, you do more of that, and then you also implement things that could potentially sell and make you money in between it.
Right. It's like breaking through the monotonous scrolling and people saying like, wow, what's that? Or, entertainment. I feel like social media has become entertainment or education.
Mm.
That's what it's about. It's not so much a portfolio anymore. It's more about entertain me.
Yeah, I think TikTok became entertainment, and I think TikTok became entertainment when we were all in lockdown, and that's when it all started, right? The mom and dads dancing with their kids and doing the dance duos and doing that whole thing on TikTok while everyone was at home figuring out if the world was burning down with the virus. And so I think that, that's how that component started. I don't spend as much time on TikTok and still for me, Instagram is a resume. And I think I use it as that. So if somebody approaches me and they're in fashion and, I do use it in the sense of like going on Instagram and seeing like who they are connected with, who knows them, who they know. The followers thing, I don't really know if I use that much because there's so many people that buy the bots and you can tell when like the comment section is less flooded, but they have 2 million followers, but there's like 6 comments. Like that's pretty obvious to me when things are not, organic, but I can still pretty much see their work and see what kind of work they have. If you're a model, I'm going to go to your Instagram and look at your pictures and see who's photographed you and who do you know. And are you just starting? Are you someone that I have 350 followers in common with? Or, I still use it as a portfolio. And I think for us creatives, it still will be that, but I do think that there is a lot of, that whole other side of the world that uses it for like, content creating and all that.
So in your journey, because let's just say from whenever you got that job in Vegas doing the dancers outfits for Janet Jackson until now, through that whole journey of becoming a fashion designer, because I've known you, to always be a fashion designer. I mean, of course, you had your side businesses of like the PR firm and whatever, but you've always been a designer, as far as I've known. Through that journey, has there ever been a time when you were done, when you were like, I don't want to do this anymore? I'm putting up my scissors and whatever. Like, I'm not
Throwing
gonna
them at the
do
wall.
fashion anymore.
So many times. I've been over it forever, for sure, and I've gotten sick of, not what I've never been sick of fashion, or I've never been sick of creating, but I've been sick of the industry and the people that come with it. It's again, it's a tough industry. Anything in entertainment, anything that has to do with, some sort of entrepreneurship and creativity, and there's a lot of people that take advantage of a lot of young designers. I've been screwed over a lot. It's almost like they prey on those that are new, whether you're a model, whether you're an up and coming, actor, or, a DJ or something, that famous, like, if you do this, to be so much exposure for you. If I hear that one more time, I'm like, like, I'm just so over that. And so I got to a point where I had to my, put my foot down and be like, I don't care how much exposure you think it's going to be for me. You either pay me or you don't. I'm not interested.
Right.
And it's hard to get to that point sometimes, because a lot of the times people are looking for that next gig to pay their bill or pay that phone, or so you can't say no and you take everything. I think once you can get to a place in your business or a career where you can actually say, I don't think I think I'm okay. It's not for me. There's some sort of power in that comes where you start to almost, people will start to talk and say, "Oh, well, he didn't want to do ours, or he didn't want." It's You start to become a little more exclusive and selective, and there's a little bit more power that comes with that. And I think that's the hard part to reach, because you have to be financially able to do that, or have some sort of plan to where, if you're not as financially stable, you have a place to be, a roof over your head, to be able to tell people like, "No, I'm good on that." And so getting to that point really is an important point, because I think that really changes a lot of what kind of, how everything starts to be looked at, your business and yourself. And it was really important for me, for sure, to get to that.
At what point did you decide, like, it's time to shut down the PR firm, it's time to shut down the party promoting, like, whatever it was that you were doing on the side, and you just focused on fashion?
There's I don't know if there's like this halo behind me or something, but there's spirit guides. I don't know what it is. There's something that I've been blessed with, that everything that's come to me has come to me. And whether it's come to me in a negative way or it's come to me in a positive way, it's forced me to do it. So with that said, what I mean is, like, my store burnt down in 2017, and that's
Oh, I didn't know
you
that.
didn't know
That was
that.
in Los
Really?
Angeles? No, I didn't
Oh
know that.
yeah.
That was when I think I was living in Europe at that I was living in Berlin.
Oh yeah. I had a boutique where the back of it was a PR showroom, and the front was like a retail store, and upstairs is where we made everything. And I worked with about maybe like 15 other designers, and I had a little rack where I had my stuff as well. And I would product develop and do PR for my brand and the other brands. And the neighbor ended up having a fire. He had some, like, it was downtown LA. He had like some cable plugged into the ceiling, bless his heart. And there was like some faulty wiring that sparked up and caught his wall that was connected to my wall on fire. And so the store burned down, and the fire department had to go in through our store to be able to go up, access the roof to put it out. And so everything was a disaster. And at that point, I was like, okay, I have to start all over again. There's no doubt, right? Like, everything's gone. So I have to start all over again. So I either start all over again and get all these designers back and open up another space, or I finally just do me. And so 2010, I said I was going to pursue my own brand. 2018, 2017 is when I finally said, I'm going to do my own brand, and then I started pursuing my own brand. And then I was approached by Next in Fashion. And I told them the story, and they were like, oh, we love it. The phoenix rising from the ashes. This is great, great story. And so really 2020, around 2019 and 2020 is when I went full force into my brand. And I was kind of forced into doing it, but it was the best thing that could have happened. So people were like, "Oh, you've been designing since 2010." Really, I've been full 100% doing my brand right around COVID. It's been 6 years, and anyone who's known me like you is always like, "Real, you've always been designing." But I wasn't 100% doing it all as the only thing, as my only brand, as my only source of income. I always had other options for revenue streams where I had money coming in. And so for the last 6 years has been where I've been doing it 100%. But with that said, with the last 6 years, I've done so much with how horrible the economy has been and all the madness that's happened in the world. I've done more in the last 6 years than I've done, I think, my whole life. So
That's amazing, and that is a testament to just pursuing your vision and to staying on the path and the direction of the, spirits and higher powers and whatever you wanna call them,
yeah.
the Buddhas and they're all the same to me.
Yeah. Energy. The energy.
Energy.
I had a medium that I love that I go to, and she was like, "Just manifest it. You're so good at that." I'm like, "But I don't know how. Like, how do I manifest? Like, what do I say? What do I do?" And I didn't even realize that when I'm like, I have a fashion show coming up and it's going to be on the 27th. And, oh, it's going to be great. I'm so excited. Like, that's in a sense even manifesting and putting that energy out there, and I had to really understand that I've been manifesting for longer than I even realized, and I think
It's natural.
it's natural. It's natural, and 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 I say stay consistent. Stay like when you're ready to give up, like earlier you were like, have you ever felt like giving up or stopping? I have said a million times, like, I am done. I am done working with celebrities. They're like they're a pain
A
in the
little high
butt,
maintenance
not
sometimes.
all of them, but like, they're a pain
Not
in the
all of
butt. The
them.
stylists, they're a pain in the butt, not all of them, and so I've said that so many times where I'm like, I'm done working with these clients, I'm done with this business. And I get so fed up, then I just go relax a little bit and, get my mind off of things and go back at it again. So it's like, stay consistent, don't give up, keep going. Longevity is really like the winner at the end of the day.
And what do you do to like, for me, if I DJ and I have a really, intense night, the next day I like to go get a massage, sit in the steam room at the gym, do yoga. What do you do to balance?
I love yoga. Yoga is amazing. For me, it's also the meditating part that's really great. Exercising, the gym, people are like, "Oh, I want to go to the gym and get cut." I want to go to the gym and decompress. I want to go to the gym and relax my mind. I am literally, if I call you before the gym and I call you after, it's like two different people called you. I noticed the difference in myself of how much more relaxed, how much more at peace I am after I've gone and had a good workout. It's like I just let all that out. So for me, it's more mental than it is physical. Obviously it's good for the body and it's good for health wise, but I think it's really good for my brain to go and exercise.
And if you read that's physical, but if you I guess it's mental as well, but if you read something or somebody is unhappy or a client is having a hard time or you read something online, I mean, of course, we love the praises. I love it when, people are like, "Oh, this is beautiful. This is great. We love this." But what do you do mentally to you talked about earlier, have that thick skin if you read something? I mean, obviously, you were on TV. That must have been brutal reading the comments. And, how do you deal with that
They
or
outed
not
me
go
to
down
my
the
dad
spiral?
they outed me to my dad on Next in Fashion.
Oh, wow.
I had, and
Wait a second. Your father did not know you were gay until he watched the
I
show?
mean, listen, we're gonna have. Did he not know? I mean, it's not like I'm hiding it very well. You know, I think you could tell right away. I think it was more like the fact that him and I had never sat down and had that conversation. And I think the other part that was, at the end of the day, it's entertainment, it's reality TV. It's not a fashion show, it's a reality TV show. And so they're looking for things to do to get viewership and whatever. And they had asked me, like, they ask you a million questions before you go on a reality TV show. They interview you, they have you do a full therapy session and make sure you're mentally okay and able to handle being on a show. And rightfully so, because I came off that show mentally not okay. I was like drained. It was like 6 to 7 days of filming, 15, 16 hours a day, 5 hours of sleep. Like it grinds you. It's stressful. It's, it makes sense that they do that. But they had asked me if I was out to everybody in my family. And I said, well, I've never had that conversation. And on one of the episodes, Tan France was like, "So, Adolfo, tell us about your relationship with your father." And there's like 6 cameras around, and I'm like, "Oh, this is what they're doing. Okay, got it." You know? So when that was filmed, and I was like, he was like, "So your father has never heard you say that you're gay?" And I said, "No, I think this would be the first time that my father actually hears me say that I'm a gay man, like openly, like out saying it out of my own mouth." And so then I knew I was gonna have to have a conversation before that show aired. Because this show, Netflix isn't just in the US, Netflix is international. So my cousins that I don't see in Mexico and uncles and aunts and family friends and everyone was gonna see this show. So it's something where like, is he gonna get that call from a family member and be like, "Oh, I haven't seen it. What did he say on there?" So it's like I had to sit him down and have that convo with him and kind of.
Yeah, and I mean, my mom's Mexican, like, I have tons of family in Mexico, and even though we're living in, 2026, it's still a thing,
Mhm.
Like, I mean, I just got engaged, and it's like I'm like an old
Yay,
maid.
congratulations.
Thank you. But I mean, for my family in Mexico, I'm not in my 20s anymore, and they're like, I'm like old for that, to like not have kids and not to be engaged. Like it's a different culture.
That whole
So that's
stigma,
kind of
right? That, like, you have to be by a certain age. I think especially for women and Latin culture, a lot of minorities, they're like, "Oh, if you're not married by a certain age, is something wrong with that person? It's why," like, they start to have all these, like, set ideas because by 30, you should already have kids and you should already be married. You know what I mean? It's like it's silly, but like you said, it's 2026 and things are different now. People are dating people that are younger or older, or people have been remarried twice, or there's just it's the rules are not the same anymore.
right, and you still needed to have that conversation with your father being, a Latino man, an older gentleman that, "Hey, have this conversation. I don't know if I ever have," and so, bringing me back to my question is that, like, things like that, like, things that are unexpected, like comments, like, your hand was forced because of the industry. How do you deal with that? Like, how do you stay sane?
You deal with each issue as you're handed that issue, and it makes you stronger. I, again, like as a teenager, my mother had cancer when I was in middle school, all through middle school to high school. And so, I would wait for her at like the chemo radiation center when I would get out of school every day. And so there's just things that I dealt with that were probably not normal to a lot of people, that was my normal in the sense, right? That was normal to me to wait for my mom outside of the radiation center. And so I think those things kind of made me a stronger person. And every time you go through something difficult, it breaks you at the moment and then it rebuilds you. And I think everything that breaks you is meant to build you up to be stronger. And it's a good thing. Instead of looking at it as like something horrible that happened, it's a learning experience that makes you stronger to be able to handle the next issue that comes. And that's just how I handle it. And again, that decompressing method of finding either a creative or physical outlet or some way that's not harmful to you or others, of letting that steam out, is I think really important as well to be able to handle all these things.
Absolutely. I'm part of a women's mastermind, and the coach, we meet every Saturday, and the coach always says, nothing is good or bad. It just is.
Mhm.
And if something quote unquote bad happens to me, it's actually not bad because it makes me stronger, like you said, and it teaches you to be more resilient and to be a stronger person in all kinds of ways. So it's like you wax over here and then it shines over there. So even if it's not directly related, like, your mom having cancer when you were in high school,
Mhm.
then you were able to read that comment on Instagram that's like, I don't like this dress. Well, it's like,
Yeah.
next, literally next.
And I'm like, you don't have to. And the thing of the beauty of social media, and yet the curse is that everyone has an opinion. And it's like,
Right.
you're allowed to hate everything that I do. And if you hate it so much, you're also don't need to waste your time looking at it. And if
Or commenting.
or commenting, and if you feel like you really needed to let that out and comment, great, I'm so glad you did. But now you can go back to whatever it is that you have not going on that makes you feel like you need to take all this time to put other people down. And I do think that there is a lot of really unhappy people on this planet, sadly, and I think that people just haven't found what they think makes them fulfill themselves or their life purpose. And so there is a lot of anger just roaming around, in this world.
Misdirected anger. There's a lot of misdirected anger. Yes. So, Adolfo, what is next? What are you manifesting? What's on agenda for 2026?
Let's see. I have these new amazing business partners that I'm working with out of the East Coast that we've been quietly for about a year, maybe a little over a year now, working on new products that are being launched. And so it's taken some time and I've stayed really quiet about it. And I now have started kind of mentioning it on social media, but I'm really now finally, we're getting ready to start dropping the product and creating more. We are launching vintage furs. They are furriers from the East Coast that are third generation furriers. So they have a room full of archived vintage furs from like the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s. And
Mm.
I'm
Wow.
taking these furs and I'm redesigning them, giving vintage fur a repurpose, And we're also doing handbags and luggage and sneakers, all in exotics, everything from alligator, crocodile, snake skins. We're launching all that together. And that launches March 27th at a runway show here in Newport Beach in California.
So the fashion show is March 27th in Newport Beach, and that is to show the furs that you've
So the
redesigned?
fashion show on March 27th is at a boutique called My Sister's Closet. And so they sell luxury designer resale. And I'm going to be the first designer that goes in there with new product. And so they're going to, on the runway, everything that's going to be shown on the runway is going to be available for purchase. So I'm showing the shoes that are made in Milan that we're now going to be offering. I'm going to be showing the furs for the first time on the runway, the handbags, the luggage, and also everything else that I already do, my dresses and, ready to wear. Everything that's going to be on the runway is going to be available for purchase. And then it's going to be featured and sold at their store. So that's the 27th.
And how can people attend? Is it invite only? Can they buy tickets? Can they sign up?
No, it's
Like
just
how
RSVP, and they can go either to my Instagram, and there's a link in my bio where they can register for that. And there's also an invitation that just went up this morning with a QR code. Um, but yeah, that's where people can register for that.
So that's March 27th, the fashion show in Newport Beach. And then you were mentioning that there's a store in the Beverly Center here in Los Angeles?
Yeah. And with my business partners, there's stores that we've gotten into on the East Coast. So I'm now available at Jimmy's in the Upper East Side. And Jimmy's also has a store in the Hamptons where we're available. And then they have 3 stores, 2 in New Jersey and 1 in Manhattan. And so now the one I'm really excited about is at the Beverly Center in May. There's a store that's going to be opening up carrying multiple designers, but there's about 25% to 30% of the space is going to be dedicated to all of my new products and everything that I'm doing. It's going to be available at that store.
What's the name of the store that's opening up in the Beverly Center that's gonna be carrying your designs?
So the concept and the name is really cool. The store is called L for L, which is looks for lease. So what they're doing is they're doing a take on Rent the Runway. And everything that's going to be in that store is going to be available either for rent or for purchase. And it's going to be the first time that a store opens up and offers a Rent the Runway concept to the general public in a store. It's being backed by Simon Group, which is who owns the mall. And so Simon Group is trying to find a new way to do new experiences for clients and people because, retail is hurting and has been having issues, and brick and mortar has been having problems. And they have so many spaces. Simon Group owns so many malls in the US, and they have empty stores. And so they're trying to find a new creative way to bring in new clientele and new shopping experiences. So this is kind of like a take on Rent the Runway. It's called Looks for Lease.
Yeah, the pivot. We're always pivoting and growing. Adolfo, how can people find you? How can they connect with you?
You can find me at adolfosanchez.com, or you can find me on social media at A Sanchez Fashion.
At A Sanchez Fashion. Okay, amazing. Before we end, Adolfo, I would first like to say thank you so much for being here today. And I guess you answered this earlier, but just one more time. What is one thing someone listening today can start doing to design and manifest a life that they want?
I would say you can surround yourself with people that inspire you. Stay positive and think positive and pursue things that you love and make you happy and not things that make you money. And stay focused and stay determined and be patient.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here, Adolfo. I really appreciate it, for taking the time today to speak with us. And thank you, everyone, for listening to Design to Manifest. If this conversation inspired you, remember that every life, business, and idea brings a vision. The question is, what will you design to manifest next? Thank you, Adolfo.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me on Design to Manifest. Each week, I feature extraordinary people living extraordinary lives who have designed the life they are meant to manifest. Sometimes intentionally, and sometimes unexpectedly, they share how success and purpose can unfold in ways they never imagined. If this episode inspired you, please share it with someone who might also be inspired, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Katherine Wentworth, and remember to design the life you truly want to manifest.